and welcome to the Washington Farm Bureau Update, a podcast designed to provide the latest agriculture, legislative, and Farm Bureau information. Well, hello everyone. Ben Tyndall here, along with Bailey Peters. The two of us are joined today by Richard Clyne, who is the director of the Farm Bureau's Safety and Claims Division, along with Corwyn Fischer, the Safety and Claims Assistant Director. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us and taking part in today's podcast.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Well, Richard, let me start with you. Can you tell us, for those who may not be aware, what the Washington Farm Bureau's Safety and Claims team is all about?
Sure. What we do at Safety and Claims is, as any advocacy group would do, we're here to just make our members' lives better. In Safety and Claims, what we try to do is make sure that the workplace and the employees and everything else is calibrated so that our members can make agriculture better, safer, faster, cheaper. And primarily that if it's our safety directors who are going out to consult on what are best practices within agricultural safety, what options are out there, what is DOSH, the Department of Safety and Health, our state OSHA, going to do if they show up. If someone does have an accident, this is a heavy-duty industry. Accidents will occur no matter how much we do. So therefore, then our claims consultants make sure that that worker gets all the care that they deserve and that that claim is closed swiftly, as cheaply as possible, and that worker can return as soon as possible back to dignified and productive work, which is what everybody wants. So we do everything we can to make that happen. And those are our frontline folks with the safety directors and our claims consultants. We do that on a number of different levels, whether that is from just the simple, small, frankly, hobby farmer who wants to say, you know what, can you just help me make sure that I understand what's going on in my workforce? We have a plan for them. We have a plan for folks who, maybe you've just had a serious accident. And at that point, you go, oh, I see what these costs and what maybe not paying as much attention as we could will do. We have a plan for them. And we also have what's called the retrospective rating group, which is in Washington State, we have a program not unlike if you have Progressive for your car insurance, will it write you a check back after a couple of claims-free years? In that same way, if we manage to keep claims low enough, infrequent enough as to actually meet the requirements for that group, then our truly best players, the folks who get it, every agriculture tries, but the ones who get it, who are successful, then they not only get all of the other better, faster, safer, cheaper, they also get a refund from the state of Washington. So for once, that bribe works for all of us. So we have all of those separate plans. On top of that, those folks who aren't on the front lines, folks like myself and or Rick Gastel and others, we are constantly agitating for better safety protocols, more appropriate protocols, ones that recognize what actually is on the ground, what happens out in the field. All too often we have people who are creating, whether it's what is safest in the field or how should we calculate that refund, folks who have never actually run a business, much less a farm. So we always try to make sure that we are giving them the best information from the field so they can give us the best service that we should expect from all of our government.
Well, maybe, Corwyn, you can explain your role. I know it's a little different than Clyne's.
Yeah, within that safety and claims division or program with the Washington Farm Bureau, Richard was talking about whether you're a small, medium, large, have high losses, just not interested in receiving a refund, and that's our agribusiness group, that's our largest group, then these other programs are available for employers to enter into an agreement with Washington Farm Bureau. And those other programs that don't qualify to get a refund, they get all of our safety and claims assistance as well. So, whether they, are working with their claims consultants or myself, one of our 4 safety directors, that's another type of insurance for the employer to make sure that they're complying with safety and health rules. And if they do have a claim, then we can help them minimize the cost of that claim through our claims consultants that we have on staff.
All right. Thank you for that, guys. And for your work on this vital team. Well, what we're really focusing on today while we've got you in this conversation is, in light of the COVID-19 reality that we're all living in, from the safety and claims perspective, what do they need to keep in mind as they work to keep their essential operation moving forward, as well as providing and protecting their employees? What's some thoughts you can give us?
That's a real good question. And I think, since this is a first for my lifetime and for anybody out there right now farming or doing a processing or any other ag-related business, I think that they need to keep up to date with all of the goings-ons of what the resources are out there for them, and any kind of emergency labor policies, safety requirements, emergency action that they may have to put in place in case an employee does become, positive with the COVID-19. It's a whole new arena for HR directors and safety directors at these places of business. And when this first came around, they didn't have a lot to go on except for the CDC guidelines and suggestions of what they should be doing. And, also diving into preparing their business for any kind of changes that, in production, hiring, layoffs, shipping, buyers that might not be buying, ways that they can adapt to the economic downturn that's going on right now. They need to be prepared to do that as well. And the most important is getting their arms around their employees. One employee sick, and all of a sudden you have a whole line that's down. An employer doesn't want that to happen, so they really need to communicate with their employees and have a really genuine concern. And the ag industry does have a genuine concern for their employees. If they don't have employees, they don't have a business. So they really need to stay on top of what's going on around them in all these different resources. And Farm Bureau has done a tremendous job of providing all those resources for the employers and the employees that they can access on our website.
Well, that's great. Well, Richard, do you have anything you might add to what Corwyn just shared?
Well, I think what farmers in Washington should remember, first of all, is that they are essential and that we all thank them for the hard work that they and their employees do every day in front of COVID-19 or just in front of a storm front, because they're out there in the field doing it all. With COVID-19, because it is such a fast-changing data mine, I think they need to remember that if you do everything you would do for your grandmother when you have the flu, you're probably doing fine. We will help them to make sure that as long as they are meeting the COVID-19 requirements, all the issues that are required for sanitation, for sanitization, for physical distancing, and for just making sure that our folks have the knowledge that they need to make good choices, then they're going to make the right choices, because it's about getting it out to the people, getting the food out of the ground, getting the feed and fiber out of the ground, and making sure that we abide by the good common sense and scientific methods when we know what they are.
Well, I love the heart of this safety and claims division, that it isn't solely aimed at the employer, but like you said, Corwyn, we want to encourage employers to put their arm around the employee and seek to make this a wholesome, safe, and productive environment for all involved, both the employer and the employee.
Exactly. Yeah. With that, we give the employer all those resources available that they can do an addendum to their accident prevention program and give the employees the tools so that they can protect themselves as well as their family, because they're going to be going home at the end of the day. L&I and OSHA has deemed this a serious workplace hazard. So, that's what directs L&I to put some of these guidelines in place. And, there's 5 elements that an employer really needs to take a look at, putting a good COVID-19 safety program in place, if you want to call it that. And it's, one is maintain social distancing, keeping workers at least 6 feet apart. or use effective engineering and administrative controls. And then number 2 is to ensure adequate hand washing facilities and frequent employee washing. And then increase regular cleaning and sanitizing of common touch surfaces. We're finding that employers are cleaning tools, areas that they have probably never cleaned before. And so they're really scouring their workplaces. And, being the food safety programs that are out there, employers are on top of it, and they've been on top of it for years. So that's one of the elements of any food safety program is, sanitizing, cleaning, personal hygiene as well. And then you want to make sure that if you have any sick employees that, you have the stay at home, you isolate those folks. And there's procedures for workers to report a suspected or confirmed coronavirus case. So an employer needs to get that information to their employees and make sure that employees feel comfortable and letting their employer know that, hey, if I don't feel good, I'm not going to come to work. And that should be the bottom line. If you're sick, stay home. And then they need to educate the workers as well. And that's a big part of all of their safety plan here for COVID-19 is they really need to educate their employees on, how to social distance, how to wash, when to wash, frequent washing, how to sanitize. And then they need to make it known to their employees that, hey, it's a condition of employment. It's not an option right now. We need to make sure that you're following these.
All right. So building off of that, what might some tangible assistance look like or support that employers or employees can expect from the Safety and Claims Division? How can Safety and Claims staff assist them through this current pandemic situation?
Farm Bureau Safety and Claims program, we've got 4 safety directors that are on call basically 24/7, 365. Quite frankly, this last 4 weeks, I've been probably busier than I've ever been answering phones and emails from employers wanting to know, what kind of material we have, what kind of information that is available for them to, comply with some of these guidelines that L&I has put out there. So some of the things that we jumped on right away was providing a policy, an addendum to their accident prevention program. And within that, it's got some verbiage in there and some policies on some ideas as well as, for social distancing and what they can do to achieve that to the workplace. When you look at agriculture, we've got, the warehouses, we got the processing, and then we've got the field work. And then in that addendum, there's some information about, hand washing. We talked earlier about that, you want to make sure that you educate your employees and make sure that they understand the importance of washing their hands frequently, especially when they come to work after, when they're going to take a break before they eat, whatever it might be. We give them ideas in there for hand washing. We also gave them ideas in their addendum for their safety program of sanitizing. People never think about washing the doorknobs or washing their cell phone or washing their radios that they might be using, or the multiple areas that employees touch in a processing plant, or even the tools, the shovel, the ladders. We've got people now calling and say, how should I wash my ladders? Well, you just get some soap and water and a scrub brush and wash their ladders. So they're coming up with all kinds of ideas, that great ways to sanitize their workplace out there. And then we gave them a section on educating their employees. And we've got this in English and Spanish. You want to make sure that you have that information available there for them. So we're there. If we need to go out in the field, we can do so. But we're going to practice that social distancing as well, and also abide by the employer's guidelines that they've set forth for their workplace. Like I said earlier, it's all on our website, a lot of information, and our phones are on 24/7.
Well, Richard, it looks like you got something you would want to add to that.
I would. In addition to all the good things that Corwyn's already said, if you do wind up having a claim during this crisis, all of our claims consultants and our staffers are available in those moments as well. Just because COVID is out there doesn't mean that you're not having people who will have a slip and fall. Doesn't mean you're not having a potential car accident. Doesn't mean that cows don't still sometimes push you into the fence. All those things continue to happen. We're still there. Moreover, particularly developing since COVID-19 is whether or not any given situation rises to the level of these new rules. So what should I do if someone comes and says their grandmother has developed COVID-19? Or what should I do if someone has a dry cough? Those things, feel free to give us a call. And whether it's a claims consultant or a safety director or call to me, anybody will be able to take that call, give you the best information right now. We're here to be, hopefully, the folks who know the most about all of these different pieces. Nobody knows everything, not even us. But we'll be able to answer those questions and say, no, guess what? Don't think that is something you need to worry about. Or, yes, how about you do this, this, and this, and let me put you into contact with our safety director in your area. Let's put you into contact with wage and hour folks who can help you resolve that particular issue that has to do with employment security's COVID-19 response. Or can we talk about a loan that you need because it affects your issues? We at Farm Bureau will help any one of those things. Everybody at Farm Bureau will, but as the faces out there more common, the safety directors and our claim consultants are really here to answer your questions and find you the answers you need.
So either Clyne or Corwyn, what do you think will be the lasting effects of this? How is this going to change safety for agriculture, either in Washington State or nationally? Do you think it's going to have a lasting impact?
I think you're going to find that new rules will be written to implement, some of these guidelines that we're seeing now is that, people bringing the common cold to work or any other kind of flu or any other kind of illness. I think that there will probably be something else that they're going to probably look at for some kind of rule development. I think this is probably setting home with a lot of employees, a lot of employers of, hey, maybe we can do things a little bit different, especially if you're sick. We don't need you bringing that to the workplace. So probably some new rules might be coming down the road.
I think that's true, what Corwyn's saying. And it's important to recognize that those two levels are different things. What's happening on the ground, the long-term effects will be, we will start looking more closely at what are the most efficient, best ways that we can keep from even the most common diseases. How do we talk better about training our people to make sure that they understand what their participation is in safety culture? And at the other end of the spectrum is, what are these rules that are coming down? We want to make sure that these rules are thoughtful, that they are backed by science, and we have exactly 1 quarter's worth of science on this. So we have 3 months. That's not a lot of information to be doing a whole lot of studies. If you look at something, for example, in California, when they required motorcycle helmets finally, and it took off, in that next 24-month period, they had a serious increase in brain injuries and spinal cord injuries. And everybody went, well, we're not quite sure what that is. This can't be right. Well, it was because they had been fatalities before. Those are the sorts of things that you need to wait for the knowledge and make sure you understand it. It's the same sort of thing where the last big crisis that I can imagine where there were new medical rules written would be the AIDS crisis, during which it took 5 to 7 years before people even understood what the transmission rate really was. And so I can't imagine that this is going to be any different than that. So yes, there will be new rules. What we'll be watching for is making sure that they speak to the actual science, that they have an effect that's relevant, and that they don't bar agriculture entirely. Everything is a slight trade-off on, you want to err on the side of human life, but not on the point of the ending of an industry. So we'll be looking very closely here at Washington Farm Bureau, as will lots of other folks, to make sure that those things that we know we have to do are tempered by those things that people think we have to do.
One of the things, the long-lasting effect of it might be that you'll get employers thinking about, do I have to have my packing line designed like this? Can I have it redesigned to where I don't have people shoulder to shoulder on my packing line anymore? Maybe I can have it redesigned, or maybe we can redesign it to where we have barriers in between workers, or maybe we'll see more cleanliness out in the fields of agriculture. They'll take to heart that, we probably should have more facilities available for employees. So it'll probably get them thinking about regulating themselves instead of letting the government agencies regulate them.
And I think we also have to look at what effect does the global nature of this crisis have on American agriculture. The reality is that we bring in so many guest workers that certainly this concept is already affecting our H2A folks. And again, that's only started in the last 4 weeks. So we have 4 weeks of data on that when we study it. I think we will be looking at the effectiveness of our current guest worker program. How do we deal with that in such a way that recognizes this new, very real concern and the age-old concern of how do we get enough people to give us enough food?
Well, guys, kind of building off of that, are there any final thoughts or closing recommendations that you might give to employers as they're trying to navigate through these uncertain times? Anything you could leave us with?
Well, I would say on the safety side, definitely, try to follow the guidelines, especially the CDC guidelines and these the new fact sheets that have come out. L&I, OSHA has deemed this as a serious workplace hazard, and the best that you can do to provide a safe place, the more healthier employees you're going to have, and you're going to be able to keep those packing lines going. You're going to be able to keep planting those trees. You're going to be able to thin those apples and pears when it comes time and pick those cherries. If you're going to let your guard down of social distancing, washing your hands, sanitizing, train your workers, then you may not have a workforce to continue on. And so, I just urge employers to follow the guidelines and keep their employees safe.
I would agree with that. And one of the things that I think we can take from general world medical knowledge is something from, say, the Ebola crisis, where once you've done everything you think you can and you think that you are now safe and the worst is past, wait 3 weeks. Keep doing it. Keep doing that, because that's how we do this and make sure everybody stays safe. As people are starting to notice that Seattle and New York and San Francisco are starting to go past their peak curve, and hopefully all of them are flattening it. Where the curve is not peaked yet is in rural America, because our transportation routes means that the place it first peaked will now be giving it to the rest of us. So once those areas are safe, once, for example, southwestern Idaho, which is having a bit of a fatality peak recently, you want to make sure that let's wait for them too, because we don't want to keep giving it back and forth to each other. So yes, we seem to be coming out of it. We should be able to start reopening in ways that make sense, but that's reopening to make sure everybody is happy and financially secure. We're only as safe as we're going to be 3 weeks from now.
And I just want to add too, that's really good information, Richard. But the information that the Farm Bureau can supply to them is on our website, and we have got so many resources, safety directors, claims consultants, PR folks. Everybody's got their back. And so if there's anything that employer needs in agriculture, the Washington Farm Bureau website and staff has got it there for you.
And if you don't see it there, give us a call. We'll find it.
Well, on that note, I think that finishes us off. Bailey, as always, thank you. And Richard, Corwyn, thanks for taking part in the conversation.
You're welcome.
Anytime. Talk to you guys.
Talk to you later.
The WFB Update is a production of the Washington Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture in Washington State, ensuring our family farms continue to feed the world. To learn more, visit our website at www.wsfb.com.